Two new lawsuits have been announced today from former athletes who say they were hazed while playing for Northwestern University. The first comes from a former volleyball player, a woman identified only as Jane Doe. She says she was hazed so badly she needed medical help and then faced retaliation when she reported it. The second lawsuit, filed by former Northwestern quarterback and wide receiver Lloyd Yates. He's the first former player to attach his name to a suit. He says he was touched inappropriately and that coaches knew about the hazing. Listen.
No young teenager should have to bear what we did as freshman students. We were conditioned to believe that this behavior was normal, which was sickening and unacceptable. To all the young athletes out there, I urge you to stand up. Stand up for yourself, even when the odds are against you.
Lloyd Yates, who you just saw, and his attorney, Ben Crump, are joining us now. Thank you both so much for being with us tonight on NBC News Now. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Holly.
Of course. Lloyd, let me start with you. We heard your powerful words from today as you are now filing this lawsuit. Can you tell us more? And I know this is difficult to talk about, but how you and your teammates were affected.
Well, I think at the time, when we think we're 17, 18-year-old kids and just going through this kind of ridiculous culture that's filled with this sexual intensity of hazing, of assault, and just really thinking how normalized it was at the time, it had lasting trauma effects that it took the whistleblower in the Daily Northwestern to really understand some of the traumas that's been going on for a few years now.
I was going to ask you about the timing and why you're coming forward now. It is directly then because of that whistleblower report. That was the impetus for you for speaking out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was something that, one, as I mentioned, when something is normal, that you just think it's normal and part of the sport, part of the game. But it's also something that, was very uncomfortable that you decided to, repress for so many years. You decided to let that part of your life just go to the curb. But this whistleblower definitely opened the kind of floodgates open.
Looking back now, was there ever any part of you while you were at school, while you were playing, while you were on the team, that felt somewhere like in your gut, this isn't right, or I should raise this, or I should talk to somebody about this? Or do you think it was, as you described, such a sort of quote unquote normalized part of your experience that never was something that came up for you?
Well, I think I want to just hit it on the head of how normalized it was. It was something that was part of the culture. But to your point, I think we were under a tremendous amount of pressure that even if we did feel it was something we could speak up to, we had no outlet, no coach, no leadership to really go to because of how normal it was and how we would be frowned upon for doing so.
Mr. Crump, let me bring you into the conversation here because we've heard from Northwestern today. They are responding, of course, to this suit. It is similar in the vein of what we heard from them over the past couple of weeks here, announcing, I'm quoting here, a series of steps, including the monitoring of the football locker room, anti-hazing training, and the establishment of what they describe as an online reporting tool for complaints. They say these steps, while necessary and appropriate, are just the start. We will be augmenting them in the coming weeks. In your view, Mr. Crump, is that enough of a first step from Northwestern?
Well, I think a first step would be making sure that all of these young people, these former student athletes, are heard, that they're given an inviting forum to where they can speak their truth and suffer in silence no more. I have to commend Lloyd Yates because even though other lawsuits have been filed, Haley Jackson, his was the first one where the plaintiff allowed his name and face to be used. And that takes a lot of courage when you think about all of the criticism and all the support that people have given to try to keep everybody quiet. Well, he said he refuses to stay quiet and he is going to let his voice be known. And with this lawsuit, we have initiated the Me Too movement for college sports.
So do you believe that? I mean, you're comparing this analogously to the Me Too movement. We saw the floodgates open, obviously, after some of those first allegations are made. Do you believe that there might be floodgates opening here with more lawsuits to be filed?
I think there are going to be many more people coming forward, Hallie. We have 30 people who we plan over the next days and weeks to file lawsuits on behalf. Some of them are being courageous, like Lloyd said, that I'm going to have me as an example and I'm going to let my name be used. But there are many others who are still dealing with the psychological trauma, who are trying to decide whether they are prepared to go through this publicly. Either way, it's going to be pressure to stop this institutional culture at Northwestern, which we think is pervasive throughout college athletics all across America.
Lloyd, you just heard your attorney talk about the potential psychological trauma for you and for students who say that you're in your similar position. Knowing that, why did you take the step to put your face, your name, to do interviews like this one, to do a news conference after all this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think, really, as Mr. Crump was mentioning, I think the hardest thing for me to come out forward, and I know for a lot of guys and a lot of players and students over the next few days, in coming weeks, is going to be accepting that, we're the victim, right? People in our position, we don't want to admit that we're victims just because of, the culture and how we're looked upon and things like that. But really thinking back onto it, I think everything we went through was abuse, and the abuse did not serve us well. And I think there needs to be justice served. Personally, I would love to have closure for myself and my former colleagues. And I would love to see change be brought to protect future players.
You said something interesting there. You talked about closure. Coach Fitzgerald, the longtime head football coach there, Pat Fitzgerald, has been fired by Northwestern. Is that enough for you? Does that get you any step closer to closure? What do you want to ultimately see happen to make sure players stay safe?
Hallie, I think Lloyd had articulated at the press conference what he wants to see. We won't talk about individuals, but Lloyd, if you could articulate the things that you hope to achieve, that would be appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I think there's a part of, justice and being acknowledged and making sure that these things are set right. I think there's a certain aspect of closure, right? Having repressed this for so long, right? Having myself and so many guys suffer in silence from, this being a code of silence that has now been broken. I think is providing a lot of closure moving forward. And like I said, really protecting future players. No players should have to go through what we went through, and we really want to see that be set in stone.
Lloyd Yates, thank you so much. Ben Crump, thank you for being back on the show. Really appreciate both of your time tonight on what I know has been a busy and emotional day for you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Hallie.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.